Hey everyone, welcome back. Are you ready to explore a question that'll really make you rethink history class?
I'm ready. What are we diving into today?
Well, we're tackling a question that might seem a little crazy at first. Did someone beat Columbus to the Americas?
Oh, wow. Okay, you've definitely got my attention. I mean, we've all heard about Columbus discovering America, but what if that's only part of the story?
Exactly. We've got excerpts from these discussions with historians, and trust me, they do not hold back. They're diving into all sorts of accounts that challenge everything we thought we knew about the age of exploration. So, are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
All right. Let's kick things off with that word discovery. Like Columbus discovered America.
Yeah, it always struck me as a bit odd. It's like saying you discovered a bustling city, completely overlooking all the people already living there.
Right. It's like, oh, look, an entire continent just chilling here waiting for me.
Exactly. And it totally ignores the vibrant indigenous populations that were thriving here for centuries before any European ships showed up.
It's a good reminder that language matters, and how we frame history can really shape our understanding of the past. But speaking of European ships, there's this idea that they were the most advanced of their time, and that's what allowed them to sail so far. Was that really the case, or is there more to the story?
It's true that European shipbuilding was making serious progress, but let's not forget about other incredible seafaring cultures. The Polynesians, for example. They were masters of navigating by the stars, building these incredible outrigger canoes. And there's actually strong evidence suggesting they reached South America long before Columbus.
Wait, Polynesians in South America? Okay, now I need to hear more about this. What kind of evidence are we talking about?
Get this, it involves chickens. There's a fascinating genetic link between chickens in Peru and chickens in Polynesia.
Hold on, are you saying chickens are the key to rewriting history?
Well, in a way, yes. The Polynesians likely brought chickens with them on their voyages, and the shared chicken lineage across continents strongly suggests pre-Columbian contact. It's a pretty wild connection, right?
That's amazing. I never would have thought chickens could be historical evidence. Okay, so we've got Polynesians potentially sailing to South America, but what about North America? Weren't there stories about Vikings exploring those parts?
You're right, the Vikings were definitely making their presence known in the North Atlantic long before Columbus set sail. They were known for their incredible shipbuilding skills, their epic sagas, and their thirst for adventure.
Yeah, those Vikings didn't mess around, but did they actually make it to North America, or are we talking legends and myths?
Both, actually. Around the year 1000, Eric the Red, who sounds like a Viking straight out of Central Casting, established a settlement in Greenland.
Greenland. Okay, picture this. Icy landscapes, towering glaciers, Vikings battling polar bears. Not exactly a tropical paradise.
You got it. But it gets even more interesting. Eric's son, Leif Erikson, decided to venture even further west and established a temporary colony in a place they called Vinland, which we now believe was located in what is now Canada.
So there were actually Viking settlements in North America. Is there any hard evidence to support this?
Absolutely. In the 1960s, they unearthed the remains of a Viking settlement in Lanzo Meadows, Newfoundland. It's the real deal. They found remnants of houses, workshops, even a blacksmith forge. This discovery pretty much confirmed that those epic Viking sagas weren't just tall tales.
Wow, that's incredible. Finding a Viking settlement, what a discovery. But if they were already hanging out in North America, why did they pack up and leave? What happened?
That's a question that still has historians scratching their heads. It seems like it was a perfect storm of challenges. Conflicts with the indigenous people they encountered, a changing climate that made it harder to farm, and maybe even the allure of their more established settlements back in Greenland and Iceland.
It makes you wonder how history might have unfolded differently if those Viking settlements had thrived. Okay, so we've got Vikings and Polynesians, but our sources hint that there might be even more to the story. There are whispers of Chinese fleets, a Welsh prince searching for a new land, and even this mysterious island called Antilia that was said to be overflowing with riches. Are these just legends, or is there something more to these stories?
Separating fact from fiction can definitely be tricky, especially when we're talking about a time period with limited written records. But these stories, even the ones that might seem far-fetched, can give us valuable clues about the motivations and the knowledge of people in the past. For example, let's talk about the Basque fishermen from the Basque Country, a region that spans parts of modern-day Spain and France. There's some pretty compelling evidence suggesting they were already familiar with the rich cod fishing grounds off the coast of Newfoundland, long before Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Basque fishermen, and that's a twist I wasn't expecting. So they were already fishing near Newfoundland before Columbus. This is getting interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, the Basque, they were incredible mariners. Imagine the Bay of Biscay, known for its rough seas. That was their training ground. So they were tough, you know.
Wow, talk about cutting your teeth in some of the roughest waters out there.
Exactly. These Basque fishermen, they were like the maritime masters of their time, known for their shipbuilding and their mastery of the North Atlantic, which is no joke, you know. Those waters can be treacherous.
So we're talking about seasoned sailors who could navigate by the stars, weather a storm, and probably, like, fillet a codfish with their eyes closed.
You got it. And we're not just talking about a few small boats either. Historical records suggest a pretty bustling cod trade, with these Basque fishermen bringing back tons of fish from the Grand Banks, this incredible fishing ground off Newfoundland.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So we've got these expert Basque fishermen who know the North Atlantic like the back of their hand, and they're hauling in massive amounts of cod from this like hidden gem called the Grand Banks. So wouldn't that knowledge have been valuable to other explorers? Like, what are the odds that Columbus just bumped into the New World totally by chance?
Right. That's a really good point. It does make you wonder. And there's this fascinating theory that Columbus might have had a secret weapon, a dying Portuguese pilot.
A dying Portuguese pilot. Okay, this sounds like something straight out of a movie. Tell me more.
So the story goes, this pilot, he had insider knowledge of these transatlantic currents and winds. He got blown off course during a secret voyage to, you guessed it, the Grand Banks.
A secret cod fishing mission to the Grand Banks that ends in a shipwreck and a chance meeting with Columbus. This is incredible.
I know, right? It's like something out of an adventure novel. But think about it. This pilot, driven by the promise of, cod fishing fortunes, he would have had this firsthand experience with the winds and the currents you'd need to cross the Atlantic. And sharing that knowledge with Columbus, it could have been like his final act before he died.
Wow, that is just mind-blowing. It makes you wonder about all the whispers and rumors that must have been circulating back then, right? Imagine being a sailor, hearing these tales of undiscovered lands filled with riches. No wonder explorers like Columbus were so determined to set sail into the unknown.
Absolutely. The allure of the unknown, it's powerful. And it wasn't just about cod. Maps from that era often show these mythical islands, like Antillia and Brazil, said to be overflowing with treasure, guarded by all sorts of mythical creatures.
It's like a real-life treasure map, just enough truth mixed in with the legends to make it believable. But even with maps and rumors, crossing the Atlantic back then was risky. And yet Columbus, he kept predicting they'd find land. It was uncanny, like he had a sixth sense or something.
I've heard that. His crew was amazed by it. Sure. They thought he had some kind of supernatural ability, but honestly, I think it was more likely a combination of things. He was a very skilled navigator, very good at celestial navigation, dead reckoning.
So he was like a maritime Sherlock Holmes, piecing together the clues from the stars and the seas.
Exactly. He probably used his knowledge of existing maps, maybe some whispers from seasoned sailors, maybe even ancient texts, who knows. But all of that would have allowed him to make some pretty educated guesses about where they might find land. It suggests that his voyage, while daring, wasn't, completely random. He wasn't just sailing blind across the ocean.
This is incredible. We've gone from chickens as historical evidence to Basque fishermen, secret pacts with shipwrecked pilots. It really paints a much more complex picture of what led to 1492.
Right. It challenges us to rethink everything we thought we knew about the age of exploration. This wasn't just about European dominance, about discovering new lands. It was about this complex web of intercultural encounters, amazing navigational skills, and the never-ending human desire to see what's over the horizon,
Absolutely. It really shows how interconnected everything is. But for those of us who aren't, history buffs, why does any of this even matter today? I mean, who really cares who discovered America first?
Well, it's not so much about rewriting history as it is about understanding how those stories, those narratives, how they continue to shape our world today, even now. Because that whole idea of Columbus discovering America, it's been used to justify a lot of bad things. Colonialism, the exploitation of resources, the displacement of entire indigenous populations.
Right, like the stories we tell ourselves about the past, they have real consequences.
Exactly. And by challenging those dominant narratives, by looking at history from different perspectives, we can start to dismantle some of those harmful myths that, unfortunately, still perpetuate inequality and injustice even today.
It's like, when you're a kid and you've got that one favorite story, and then you grow up and you realize there's a whole other side to it.
Yeah, like there's always more to the story than meets the eye, right?
Exactly. And suddenly you're questioning everything. It's fascinating, but also a little unsettling. Like, how do we even begin to reconcile these different perspectives? Especially when it comes to something as big as the Age of Exploration, events that shaped the world we live in today.
It's tough, We can't just erase the past or try to neatly categorize it into good guys and bad guys. It's more complicated than that.
So how should we approach it then?
I think the key is to be mindful of our own biases, to try to avoid judging the past solely through the lens of our present-day values.
Right, like trying to put ourselves in their shoes, even if we don't agree with their choices.
Exactly. We have to try to understand the context, the beliefs, the motivations that shaped people's actions. It's not about condoning their choices, but it is about trying to understand them.
It's like that saying, walk a mile in their shoes. We can't grasp the complexity of the past if we only focus on the parts that make us comfortable.
Exactly. And every interaction, every event, it creates this ripple effect. Some people benefit, some suffer the consequences, and it all goes on to shape the world we live in.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but it also feels empowering, Like, we have the power to uncover these hidden histories, these alternative narratives. But then what? What do we do with that knowledge?
Well, that's where the real work begins, right? It's about using that knowledge to build a better future. We have to amplify the voices that have been silenced, acknowledge the legacies, both positive and negative, of the past. It's about learning from the mistakes and celebrating the victories, but always striving to create a more just and equitable world.
That's powerful. And it starts with each of us being curious, asking questions, challenging the narratives we've been taught.
Absolutely. It's about being open to new information, to different perspectives, even if they make us uncomfortable.
Right.
Because that's how we grow, that's how we learn.
Okay, so speaking of challenging narratives, let's circle back to those Viking settlements in North America for a second. What if, and this is just a what if, but what if those settlements had actually flourished? What would North America look like today? Would we be having this conversation in, like, Viking?
It's a really interesting thought experiment. It highlights how even seemingly insignificant events can have these massive ripple effects on the course of history. It really makes you wonder, what other possibilities are hidden within the past,
It's mind-blowing. Well, on that note, I think we've done enough mind-bending for one day. Thanks to everyone for joining us on this incredible deep dive into history. Remember, the past is never truly past, right? It's always there, shaping our present and ultimately our future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.